We are very lucky to have with us live in the studios this morning, Tom Carpenter. Tom Carpenter is the executive director of the Hanford Challenge. Prior to his current position, he worked as the director of the Nuclear Oversight Campaign for the Government Accountability Project from 1985 to 2007. He also founded the Cincinnati Alliance for Responsible Energy and helped establish and is a board member of the Hanford Concerns Council. Let's talk about the situation at Hanford. Most recently, I know you had been working with Walter Tamasitis, whistleblower, one of the many examples of the fine whistleblowers you are always working with. Can you talk about the situation there with the vitrification plant and what's been happening?
Yeah, well, as maybe some listeners know, Hanford is a former nuclear weapons production facility. They made plutonium there in southeastern Washington for about 45 years, starting in World War II. And the mission ended, but it's still the largest, most contaminated facility in the United States. And it's about 200 miles from the city of Seattle. So now the U.S. government is grappling with the cleanup of this highly dangerous facility. They store at Hanford 2/3 of the United States nuclear waste, high-level nuclear waste. And this waste is stored in underground nuclear waste tanks, about 53 million gallons of this stuff. This is some of the most radioactive material on the planet. Very small amounts of it are fatal. It will last many thousands and even millions of years in toxicity. And we really just don't know what to do with it. So the plan is to mix this waste over the next 50 years in a large facility called the Vitrification plant. Vitrification simply means to put it into glass. So they'll mix this waste into big melters. The glass will cool down once it goes into a steel canister, and supposedly that will go into a repository somewhere and be put safely out of reach. However, the dream and the reality are still pretty far apart. They've run into all kinds of technical problems, and their chief research guy, the guy who they hired to chase down problems with design and all that, is a guy named Walt Tamasitis. He has a PhD, 40 years in the industry, was the manager of research and technology. Well, he got fired last summer simply because he raised safety concerns about the design of the facility. Now, what kind of safety concerns? Well, that includes that if you don't properly mix this waste, once it hits the vitrification plant's facilities, then you can develop hydrogen gas buildup, and that could explode. Now, we know what that looks like because if you watch TV, you can see that on or go on the internet. In Japan, they had 2 hydrogen explosions, just ripped right through the plant, and big releases of radioactivity. We just don't want that happening at the Hanford site. Also, the plutonium can settle out in these tanks and cause a nuclear criticality. That's where fission occurs, neutron radiation is released. It can also lead to an explosion and a fire. It's a very undesirable event. So, for the site to fire this guy for raising these concerns was a huge shock to the system, and it caused many engineers and workers to become very concerned about their own jobs. Walt Tamasitis is now fighting his case in court, and fortunately for us and for him, there is a federal agency called the Defense Nuclear Facilities Safety Board that has taken his concerns seriously, is investigating those concerns, and is barraging the U.S. Department of Energy with letter after letter and recommendations saying you better react to this information and put more rigor into the safety of this facility.
Have you noticed any change on any of the Hanford-related projects, including this one, since the Fukushima disaster? I mean, are they actually paying more attention to things, or is it that just...
No, I think it's almost less, ironically. It's as if Fukushima never happened at the, in the attention of the Hanford site. We continue to see whistleblower cases emerge. The safety issues seem to be less and less important to them. It's more about production, getting the work done. Now, the cleanup's important, but not at the risk of a fire hurting people and that kind of thing. And we're very concerned about how the pace of things is going. And we attribute that partly to Obama's choice for Secretary of Energy, who is a guy named Stephen Chu. He was the director of a laboratory in California. He's a Nobel Prize winner, a physicist. He's very good on clean energy use, but not good on nuclear safety. In fact, he doesn't think there is such a thing as nuclear safety, apparently, because he's been scaling back on regulations and, apparently supporting the termination of people like the top scientist at the vitrification plant. And it's just really amazing. And some of the people that he's appointed to their positions were involved in that termination of Dr. Tamasitis. So it's unusual to get evidence that a DOE official was instrumental in removing a whistleblower, but that's what's happened in this case.
So in addition to the people that are working on the inside and bringing out this information, I know also one of the things that you've focused on in the past is the numerous people, the downwinders who have been dying there in Hanford. And I know just like in the last couple of weeks, there was another person that died of cancer that was trying to get help, and the government hasn't given them just even the basic medical attention that they need.
Right. I mean, that's happening. There are thousands of people who got showered with radioactivity from Hanford's releases over the past few decades. Hanford was very careless in some cases, and other people would say it was criminal in how they released radioactivity to the environment. There were some deliberate experiments. One, the most famous, was the Green Run, where the government decided to run an experiment and deliberately release large amounts of iodine-131, a radioactive gas, again, familiar to the public because of Fukushima. But this was not an accident. This was something the Army wanted to do to see if they could detect iodine-131 far away from the plant. And as a result of doing that, they irradiated a large area around the Hanford site. Women, children, adults, many people just got doses to the thyroid because of that. So that happened back in the 40s and 50s. And releases continued throughout the operation of the facility, and people got sick from it. So that's proven. That's a fact. People have now brought lawsuits, and those lawsuits have not been resolved or settled. They're being tried one by one in a Spokane courtroom, and people are starting to win their cases, but it's really mystifying as to why the government does not step up and start taking care of people, because there's no doubt that these exposures happened, and there's no doubt that people have gotten sick and died from it. So, and it's the same with workers.
So in addition to where the government could have told people prior, let's just say to the Green Run, where they specifically meant to release this, they could have told people ahead of time so people would have stayed indoors and not, been out breathing or
exactly
milking the cow.
And in fact, it was activists who revealed the Green Run issue back in 1986 when they got records under the Freedom of Information Act through a lawsuit. So they're the ones who first talked about it, not the U.S. government. So the government was busted on this, and they've never actually come clean on it. Apart from releasing those records, there's been little to no official comment from the government on it. And again, that was just one of many releases of radioactivity. And it's true, they never informed anyone in the area about these releases.
Another thing that the nuclear proponents like to point out is, well, we release these large amounts or these inconsequential amounts, but it's spread out evenly over the area, so nobody really gets a heavy dose. But the reality is Mother Nature doesn't distribute it evenly. Oftentimes there's peaks in the valleys and stuff where like a heavy dose seems to fall from Hanford.
Well, sure, that's the science of it, is both air and water releases. There are concentrated plumes of this stuff, and some people got huge doses and some people got very little dose that might have been next door. So it's kind of like anything else. It will take preferential pathways, and you can't, of course, just do the math and have it be divided evenly into the population. Some people are going to take bigger hits than others, and other people also have sensitivities. We're all different chemically. So radiation dose for me may be different for somebody else. Certainly children are more sensitive, pregnant women, et cetera. They're going to be more sensitive to that radiation dose.
All right. So you have been working this issue forever, Tom, and have you seen any real change in all that time?
Oh, absolutely. No, it's. I know Hanford is an overwhelming negative bummer. One of my friends calls it the eco bummer on the Columbia, and it's actually it's a beautiful area. You go down on a boat and you see animals on the shoreline, et cetera, and it's worth preserving. So what we have seen is, of course, plutonium production has ended. Cleanup has occurred in some areas of the site. Certainly, money has been flowing to the area for that cleanup. And because of the public weighing in on Hanford, and I'll just give a plug here for KEXP helping to publicize whistleblowers, helping to publicize public hearings, people have come out and expressed that they don't want Hanford to become the nuclear garbage can for the rest of the United States. We've got enough mess here to clean up. And, we have a voice because of KEXP for that. And that's made a huge difference. So now there is a lockstep, unanimous voice about bringing waste to Hanford. So the state of Washington, the state of Oregon, the Tri-Cities communities, the activist groups, all the groups out there are saying, don't bring this waste in from outside. We know it's bad enough as it is. And even though the Department of Energy keeps trying to chisel in this way or that way to bring it in, it's just not going to happen. So that's an example of how the community organizing makes a huge difference at the Hanford site.
Can you talk a little bit about Fukushima? Because obviously that's was on a lot of people's minds. It appears to be dropping off the corporate media radar.
It's amazing. Here we've got 3 meltdown accidents still going on. They're not in control of it. We've got a spent nuclear fuel pool where the rods are entirely exposed. I was reading this morning that the radiation levels inside Unit 1 are the highest they've been. Just an astounding 4,000 rem an hour, which is a fatal dose, and it just is not in the newspaper much anymore. It's not in the media much anymore. It's an accident in progress, and now Japan says, well, we'll have it under control maybe by January. And meanwhile, you've got the International Atomic Energy Agency saying, well, nothing happened really. It was they handled the accident in an exemplary fashion. And I'm going, wow, really? I hate to see a botched, reaction, because this was as bad as it gets. We are probably going to be seeing, areas off limits for centuries because of the cesium contamination around the facility. The sea life in the seabed is contaminated hundreds of thousands of times permissible levels. It's long-lived contamination. We're detecting Fukushima's radiation here in Seattle. The radiation levels, are being measured off my back deck, for instance, and I'm having them analyzed in a Boston laboratory. We're finding hot particles, that are coming from Fukushima. So of course, we're very concerned about this accident, what it means, for our ecological future, for human health, the impact it's having on Japan in particular. And of course, we're drawing parallels to our own sites here, like the Hanford site.
And I think I read somewhere that 2/3 of our population or thereabouts live within 50 miles of a nuclear facility here in this country.
Yeah, nuclear facilities tend to be clustered around urban areas, so that's where the energy is needed. We've got 100 or so nuclear plants. Only a few of those are in, big earthquake zones, but many of them are in tornado zones, flooding zones, et cetera. So, there's so many things that can go wrong. And even though the risks are low, if they do happen, then the consequences are high. So this is what's of concern here, is that you can have a perfectly operating facility for 40 years, but one day something bad happens and that 40 years doesn't matter anymore, right? Because you've now done tremendous economic, ecological, and human health damage in one bad day at a nuclear plant. And that can happen from human error. It can happen because equipment fails. It can happen because of a natural disaster, as Fukushima tells us.
One of the critical things to organizations like yours, Hanford Challenge, your predecessor, the Government Accountability Project, and us as citizens is whistleblowers
Right.
coming forward and letting us know about these things that are happening on the inside. Has things gotten worse under the Obama administration for protection of whistleblowers?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that, but the answer is yes. The Obama administration's record on protecting whistleblowers or actually prosecuting whistleblowers is terrible. And there are a number of high-profile cases going on right now. And whistleblowing is on the increase, but so is mistreatment of whistleblowers. So this administration has taken a very kind of right-wing, hardline stance against people who are informing the public about fraud, waste, abuse, environmental problems, etc. I don't quite understand it, but certainly the alarm is being raised out there, and civil libertarians are taking notice.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time. Not enough time to cover this issue as we should.
Well, I appreciate the time that I got. Thanks so much. And all you listeners out there, donate to KEXP and help the voice continue.
Thank you.